Yemen said, firstly, they did not deny the statement of Donald Trump, meaning indirect confirmation that there's a deal between them and the United States, but they did confirm that their attacks, all of their attacks against Israel, including, because they did not exclude in the statement, the attacks in the Red Sea, they will be continuing up until Israel stops the genocide in Gaza and lifts the siege. Now, the man who made the statement is Mohammed al-Bukhaiti, who was a senior figure in Ansarullah. He made that to Al-Arabi television. He didn't give too much details. So we can understand the following. There's a deal between the United States and Yemen. For that not to appear to be something too dramatic or too drastic, they're not mentioning Israel a lot. Trump didn't mention Israel a lot. He didn't mention Israel at all, by the way. And I will tell you exactly what Israel said after this statement of Donald Trump. Ansarullah said, we're going to keep attacking. And we're not going to speak too much about this deal. But there was a mediation. And that mediation came from Oman. Oman, the same country that participated in the mediation between Iran and Saudi Arabia, other mediations in the region too. Now they clearly mediated between Ansarullah and Yemen. So what do we understand here? We understand that the Yemeni strikes have been effective. We understand that there's a crack between Israel and the United States. There is a crack. Donald Trump is not visiting Netanyahu. Last time Netanyahu was there, he was called to come there so that Trump can tell him, reach a deal, and he decided not to reach a deal. In the US, they're trying to not to make too much drama out of it. The United States is going to stop attacking Yemen. They started the campaign for the sake of Israel. We don't know what's going to happen with Britain now, by the way. But seeing as the United States is taking this position, of course, the English administration or the British establishment, they're gonna probably follow the United States because the United States was taking the lead. Well, and he's not seeing Israel now. Mike Waltz was sacked for collaborating with Netanyahu. There's something going on. They're trying not to make a very big deal out of it, but something is going on. And that something that's going on is leaving Israel shocked. There were many reports coming in Israel that the leadership is shocked, and we had one report in Ynet saying that the Trump statement, the Trump surprise halt on strikes on Houthis raises eyebrows in Israel and tensions with the US. Explainer there, they're saying in this article, Washington officials say attacks on Iranian proxy, garbage talk again, may stop, but Israeli leaders were blindsided by the move, which underscores deeper friction between the two nations over Iran deal and Trump's decision to bypass Israel on high-stakes Mideast tour. He's coming to visit all of the Arab states almost, and even Saudi Arabia put a condition for him that I spoke about the other day. Don't even talk about Israel when you're here. Saudi Arabia, as a prerequisite, they told Trump, don't mention normalization with Israel. Out of the question. No one's looking at them. They're trying to portray themselves as if there's something now and controlling a new Israel. Garbage. Absolute nothing. Pariah state. No one is viewing them, and now they're causing problems with their biggest ally that they wouldn't survive a second without. All of that because of their constant arrogance and defying everything that any US president says, despite their constant support for them and participation, by the way, in the genocide, outright facilitating and supporting it. But to that level, this is where the extremism has reached. Israel in its entirety is extreme, but now it's taking it to a new level. Clearly, there's something going on. And the fact that all of these things are connected and are happening simultaneously, one after the other, shows you that there's something. But Israel is saying that there's something going on. And how are they also confirming that? Well, they also said in another report in Israel that Ron Dermer is going to be mediating to try and de-escalate. Ron Dermer, Netanyahu's main man in the United States, is going to the United States, and they're confirming that there are tensions again. So here, this is the continuation, by the way, of this particular article, and why tensions escalate after the Washington Post report. They're referring to the Post that said that Mike Waltz was fired because he was basically in intensive contact with Benjamin Netanyahu to arrange a strike on Iran. And clearly the Trump administration, or the America First camp in the Trump administration, they didn't like that. Now, they're also confirming that Ron Dermer, Netanyahu's main man, is going to be in Washington to try and de-escalate the situation. And they're also referring to the constant moves of the United States withdrawing from Syria, something that Israel did not want. They wanted the Americans to stay in Syria so that they can work more on dividing it. Trump siding more with Turkey in their moves inside of Syria and supporting Syria too. Trump now having this deal, Trump sacking Waltz, not visiting Israel now, the fact that he called Netanyahu, the fact that he told Netanyahu in front of the whole world, you need to be more sensible. There are tensions. There are undeniable tensions happening between Israel and the United States. And clearly, Israel is not really considering the level of support of the United States. They're behaving as if they can function without the United States. Now, there are more things, more moves that have multiple potential explanations that are happening that indicate that there's something going on. Now, one of them is the United States is sending Patriot systems that it had in Israel to Ukraine. We had this report in the Middle East Eye confirming that the United States is having this shuffle, sending them to Ukraine. Now, one might argue, of course, the first argument could be is, well, the Patriot is not that effective. At the end of the day, you know, it wasn't working very well, but it was used. It was used in many attacks. However, the United States is saying, or again, they're saying in this article that it's like a signal to Iran about the de-escalation, right? However, it's signaling that Israel is seeing this change coming from the United States, and the United States is indeed having a change. They're having a change. Why take out more air defense systems from Israel when they are under constant attacks, when their defense system have just been breached by Ansarullah in Yemen? This is something very significant, by the way. And they're saying here that this could be a signal to Iran. And of course, the United States clearly is in intense talks with Iran. They want to try and reach a deal with Iran, but they are having these moves. They are having these moves, whether it's for the sake of Iran, whether for the sake of it, they're doing that. They're taking air defense systems from Israel and moving them to Ukraine. Now, we've had other important developments that are directly linked to Yemen. And one of them, of course, one of the main developments is the Israeli attack. Israel carried out another attack in Yemen today. They attacked Sana'a, and they attacked multiple places. But there is a pattern of the Israeli attacks. There's a pattern in the Israeli attacks. So, for example, one of their attacks today was conducted against a cement factory. Now, before they attacked, I spoke to you about the fact that Israel likes to have these cinematic scenes when they conduct attacks, big fires, big places, something like that's why they went to oil, okay, the port as well, lots of smoke, lots of fire, burning oil for hours. Then a cement factory. What does a cement factory do? Civilian cement factory, building, property, whatever. What does it do? It releases a lot of smoke and clouds, right? Lots of dust that can stay there and cause a lot of damage. These are their targets in Yemen. This is Israeli strategic targets. Garbage, all just to show. They don't know where these people are. They don't know where they keep their weapons. They're unable to stop the attacks against them. and they're unable to stop the blockade imposed against them in the Red Sea, and now without American support. Is there any ship that will be daring to move in the Red Sea if there is no American support? Some ships were moving with the American support for Israel there. What ship is going to even try and move from the Red Sea now with a deal reached that excludes Israel between Ansarullah and the United States? Tell me. Nothing. So Yemen is attacking. They are increasing the attacks. They're saying the Ben Gurion attack is just the beginning. We have more to come. You escalate, we escalate. But Israel, of course, comes out with these. So we had this report here. Second day, shuts down Sana'a airport. Attacking plants, factories, and one of them was, there was another link to a cement factory inside of Yemen. Again, trying to portray power, trying to cause big scenes so that, you know, people can see, oh, look, massive, gigantic attacks against Yemen. When really and truly, their attacks in Yemen are similar to the attacks in Gaza. I mean, not to the intensity of the genocide in Gaza, but the destruction of civilian facilities, and nothing that can stop the resistance against them. Gaza, 1.5 years of full-blown genocide, full-blown savagery and barbarism against innocent civilians, and they haven't achieved anything. The resistance is still there, quality attacks against the terror forces, and they are being confirmed by Israel. Yet despite all of that, Israel is saying now that they want to expand this operation. Now, in relation to the operation in Gaza, there are some things that are happening. Well, the first thing that's happening is we've had this declaration about the new campaign that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to start if no deal is reached up until Trump's arrival. Again, what do you understand from that? Even them stating that fact, it's as if they are preparing the ground for them to potentially accept a deal. Donald Trump is saying we're going to have big announcements soon. These announcements relate to the aid going into Gaza. And this is coming simultaneously with reports coming from Israel that the army intends to establish 3 distribution centers in Rafah. This is what the Israeli army is saying. We're intending to open 3 aid centers and distribution centers inside of the Gaza Strip. They're still not confirming yet who's going to control them. But despite the fact that they're continuing the genocide, they're saying that now we're going to allow aid in. Clearly, there's pressure. And in Israel, by the way, in some of the reports that I was sharing with you earlier, they're saying that there is intense pressure coming from the United States. But that pressure is against a man called Benjamin Netanyahu. And that Benjamin Netanyahu clearly doesn't have any regard to anyone when he wants to do something. Total psychopathy. Trump said that we're going to have a good statement regarding the aid to Gaza. That still hasn't been implemented. Israel reported that they had certain pilots to allow aid into Gaza. That hasn't been confirmed by a Palestinian source. However, they're stating that in the next few days, something might come in. But Netanyahu's main allies inside of Israel are still insisting that there's going to be an enormous campaign and this is going to go and wipe out Hamas. And as a matter of fact, the Israeli finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, is saying that in 6 months, there will be no Hamas in Gaza. After more than 1.5 years of war, and after the cabinet approved the expansion of the fighting, the finance minister described the picture of victory in his eyes, saying that Gaza will be completely destroyed. Its citizens will concentrate south of the Morag and start leaving to other countries. They will despair. And they will be in a state of like catastrophe. He's saying that, you see, this savagery is barbarism. It's supported by your politicians and your leaders, if you're living in any country that supports this abhorrent barbarism that this genocidal entity is conducting, not only against Gaza, but against everyone in the region, sitting there causing problems after problems. Now, he's serious, but there's something interesting in his statement. What is that? He's saying in 6 months there will be no Hamas in Gaza. Why is he saying this? Why, and why did he not say this before? And why is he confirming that aid will go in? Well, firstly, Bezalel Smotrich was a man who refused to allow aid into Gaza. He was constantly criticizing Netanyahu for allowing any aid in, saying starve all of them to death. And there were people in Israel, the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer was legitimizing the starvation and saying it's legal to kind of starve people in the beginning. But in Israel, there have been people who said, well, starve all of them to death. Smotrich was one of them. Why is he saying that now that he's fine with allowing aid into Gaza and in 6 months there will be no Hamas? He also might be preparing the ground for the fact that there will be a deal. Israel will try and portray it as an absolute victory, or that Hamas submitted, similar to what Trump said about Yemen. They came and begged us, and they basically said, stop attacking, and we will stop attacking your ships. Clearly lies, trying to, make it appear to be as if they came and begged him, when really and truly the Americans were the ones who were actually going and attacking Yemen shamelessly, with all of the audacity, conducting mass terror in Yemen for the sake of a genocidal entity. That's what happened. And clearly the attacks of Yemen on these genocide supporting forces of the US were effective. That's why they reached a deal. If they were not effective, the United States wouldn't even look at them. They wouldn't speak with them. Likewise with Gaza. If Hamas was not capable, if Hamas was totally defeated, they wouldn't talk with Hamas, would they? They would enforce things on the ground. This is clearly showing that no, the resistance does work, and it's forcing the biggest power in the world, the United States, and one of the most equipped countries in the region. I'm not even going to use terminology like advanced or whatever. These people are backwards and barbaric. The genocide state, by the least equipped side, Gaza. Now, where are things going? This is the big question. If Smotrich is saying that in half a year there will be no more Hamas, well, that means he could be preparing the ground for a deal. That means he might be expecting that something might happen, and I want to justify my presence in the government. Therefore, I'm going to have to say from now that Hamas will be done. And because Hamas will be done in 6 months, we might get a deal now. That's one interpretation. The second interpretation is that Israel is totally delusional, detached even from the United States now, its biggest ally and supporter, and they are going ahead with what they think that they can achieve. But they are constantly met with reality checks. These reality checks are given to them, are handed to the government by the IDF chief of staff. Of course, the IDF chief of staff is a war criminal, like all of the others who are participating in this genocide and supporting it. But how is he trying to give them reality checks, and is he trying to potentially stop what Israel is doing now in Gaza? Firstly, I spoke about this several days back when he reported about the horror scenario. He basically came up with a scenario to the government, telling them that if we plan on expanding the operation in Gaza and going there with more troops, we will have a lot of soldiers killed. Again, from the IDF chief of staff, confirming what? Confirming that the resistance is capable, confirming that the resistance is strong, confirming that the resistance, like it put your child-killing troops' heads in the sand of Gaza before, they will put their hands in the sand of Gaza again. This is what he's confirming. They, of course, still going ahead and making these statements. But now he's saying something else and actually doing something else. What is he doing? He is going and sending more orders for the Orthodox community to go and serve. In this report, they're saying Chief Staff the Mir decided on a drastic step which sends a message to the government. Against the backdrop of the widespread mobilization of reserves, Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir ordered a move that expected to cause a stir in the Haredi leadership. A stir in the Haredi leadership who are in the government for their own purposes, by the way, not because they love Benjamin Netanyahu, just because that they get the money, they get the funding for what they call the yeshiva, their religious institutions, and they constantly get exemptions from serving in the army, despite theatrics conducted by Netanyahu and his government that they're trying to force them into conscription. But he reached a deal with them, Netanyahu, with the Orthodox and Haredis, telling that no problem will pass it. He's been criticized by the opposition, by the others in the society in Israel, saying, well, why am I going to die for the third and fourth time, risking my life for Netanyahu when his son is not here anyway, bathing in Miami? And over half of the state almost are getting an exemption for religious purposes. So he already gave them an exemption. But the IDF chief of staff is using his power as the IDF chief of staff to send the orders to the people despite refusal from the government. What does that mean? That means that there are tensions between these people. That means he's doing something that could increase the tensions between Benjamin Netanyahu and key elements that hold his coalition together. Again, not necessarily for liking Netanyahu, by the way, for their own interest. These people, some of the religious groups, leaders in the Israeli government, they were arrested for corruption, by the way. Money and stuff. So they just want their money and they want to have exemption and they want to be funded by the state without serving. It's something that, of course, the rest of the society views as a strain and double standards and hypocrisy. Why are you doing that? Now he's sending the orders to them in defiance of the Israeli government and in defiance of Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, moving on, there was another statement made by Donald Trump that could also indicate that there is a real crisis happening, by the way, between him and the Netanyahu administration. What was that? Well, Donald Trump just landed a bombshell in relation to the Israeli prisoners in Gaza. Again, shocking everyone out of nowhere and without any coordination. What was it? He said that 3 hostages were killed, only 21 left alive in Gaza. In Israel, they said it's a shocking statement by the President of the United States. Second time they used the term shocking in reference to Donald Trump, in which he claimed almost casually that 3 hostages died in Hamas captivity, contrary to the official numbers in Israel's possession. The reliability of the information is unclear, and Israel has no confirmation of this. He also referred to Iran, the important period in its history. So Donald Trump is giving information about the people who Israel claims to be the most important in this whole campaign, the prisoners, the Israeli prisoners in Gaza, or what they call the hostages, and landing this information. Firstly, this could be classified information, very secret information, that the news are reporting. How did he get that information? He could have received this information from his direct negotiation with Hamas. Because don't forget, that was yet another step showing that there are differences between the US and Israel, or more cracks in that relationship. How? Well, Adam Bowler was spending months talking to Hamas, and then he had statements calling them nice guys like me and you, and reports that they were having Arab desserts after midnight with fresh orange juice. They could have given him information. Why? Because Hamas, from their side, they don't have a problem with the United States apart from its support for Israel. And they always said that. We have a problem with the Zionist occupation. This is what they constantly say. No American or nothing. Of course, the garbage propaganda of Western mainstream media constantly tells you, and fear-mongering and whatever about Hamas, for the sake of the Zionists, not for the sake of anyone else. And they were criticized internally for that too. But he made this statement now. The families of the prisoners of war are sitting like, the United States president is coming to tell us that people are killed, and our prime minister is not telling us that 3 of them have been killed. Do you see how that could be a deliberate attempt or a deliberate move coming from Donald Trump to show Benjamin Netanyahu in a bad way to the Israeli public? Him declaring that 3 of them were killed, only 21 left. Who's the one to look at now? Netanyahu. The people tell him, well, why are you keeping this information for us? Why is the American president saying this? You're supposed to be best friends with him. Are you hiding something from us that we don't know? And what led to the United States president to make such a statement in relation to such a sensitive topic to the whole world? And if it's true, then look, you are killing the Israeli prisoners inside of Gaza for your own interest and for your own benefit. This is serious. This is serious, and this could cause a lot of trouble for Benjamin Netanyahu, who already has a lot of trouble. Now, again, this could be a move, and the Israeli moves led by Netanyahu could be moves made as preparation for the potential of reaching a ceasefire, especially with them giving Hamas this last chance